Fun fact about Israel, though Jerusalem is a huge, sprawling city today, once upon a time, it used to be a small country little town. Shalom, my friends. This is Akiva Gersh with Israel in 5, where we give you everything Israel in 5 minutes. Please like and subscribe. And if you have any questions or want to keep the conversation going, please do so below in the comments. You visit Jerusalem today, it is a beautiful, large, sprawling city with all kinds of neighborhoods and all kinds of things in it. Lots of history, of course, lots of culture, lots of politics, all kinds of different things happening in the city. You can spend days and days and days in the city and not run out of things to do. But once upon a time, Jerusalem used to be literally a little country town, so to speak, nestled on the mountains, amongst the mountains of the area known as Judea. For most of its history, Jerusalem was this tiny little city. Right? We know when we look in the Bible, under the leadership of King David, Jerusalem became the capital, the first real capital of the Jewish people, and eventually the eternal capital. And back then, it literally was a town on a mountain, surrounded by walls, which all towns back then needed to have. It had its water source, the Gihon, right next to it. And that's how it was. All right, with not much room to grow. Eventually, it did grow for various different reasons, historical, political, and the like. And then probably tripled, maybe quadrupled in size eventually, and then pretty much stayed that way. For the most part, if you go visit Jerusalem today and you go to the old city was ancient Jerusalem. And the way it looks today, for the most part, not exactly, but that was more or less the size of Jerusalem, of all of Jerusalem, for most of its history. Jerusalem only expanded out of the old city walls in the 1800s. So the mid to late 1800s, things started to move past the city walls. And at first, it was very frightening to people because they were outside the city walls. It wasn't as safe. Right? There were all kinds of threats out there, both from nature and from people. But eventually, the first neighborhood was built in the second part of the 1800s, and then another, and all these suburbs started to form, and eventually Jerusalem started to expand outside the walls. Again, what we call today the old city. Back then, it was the only part of the city. And then from there, right, there was no stopping Jerusalem. And Jerusalem today, you go to Jerusalem, there's almost 1 million people living in all of Jerusalem. And again, you have all these different kinds of neighborhoods, all these different kinds of historical sites, cultural sites, political sites, of course, being the capital of the state of Israel. You have all the important governmental buildings there, the Supreme Court, the Knesset, the Israeli parliament, and the like. Now, in 1967, there was a major turn in the city's history because before 1967, right, and after the War of Independence in 1948, 1949, the city itself got split into two. There was West Jerusalem, which was the capital of Israel, and there was East Jerusalem, which was cut off from the other part of Jerusalem, which was controlled illegally, that's another story, by Jordan. There was literally walls and barbed wire going right through the city. It was a very, very tense situation. And then in 1967, the Six-Day War, when Israel gets attacked by three countries simultaneously, Israel takes over East Jerusalem with some hard battles, but very, very quickly time-wise. And for the first time, the entire city is unified. It's one of the first things that Israel does right after the Six-Day War is unify the entire city, the West Jerusalem with East Jerusalem, and putting it into law that all of this Jerusalem is now the capital of the city, literally changing the municipal lines of the city to bring that other half into the city. Now, with that came all kinds of sociological and demographic implications, geopolitical implications as well, because that other half of the city, that was all Arab. And that's why there's such a large percentage of Arabs living in Jerusalem today because of East Jerusalem. About 60% or so of residents of Jerusalem are Jewish, and the rest of them are Arabs, mostly Muslims, some of them Christians. So there's a lot going on there as well. In addition to the historical and the cultural and the political, like we mentioned, there is this whole geopolitical political aspect of Jerusalem as well. Lots of security issues as well. But Jerusalem is one unified whole that expanded the population. And again, today there's about almost 1 million residents of the holy city of Jerusalem, of the capital of the modern state of Israel. And it's interesting to know that never before was the city of Jerusalem, was the capital of Jerusalem, the capital of the Jewish people, even close to being that large, that size, right? Back in the day, for thousands of years, it was a little kind of country town sitting on a hilltop surrounded by beautiful nature, right? And Jews from all over the country, even different parts of the world, would come there specifically during the festival times to be part of the celebration, bring sacrifices, go to the temple, and connect. And still today, you see that. You see Jews from all over Israel coming all the time. You go to the Western Wall, which is, of course, the heart of the old city. People from all over the country, all over the world, Jews and non-Jews alike, are coming there, flocking there, attracted, feeling like this magnetic, call to come there. And it's a beautiful thing, right? Jerusalem is the eternal capital of the Jewish people. But we also know, according to the Hebrew Bible, that we are meant to safeguard it and share it with the world so that they can too connect to the beauty and to the spiritual power of the holy city and the ancient city of Jerusalem.